Welcome back everyone, it's Bigfoot. I got a very special video in store for everyone today. Last week I announced I was going to be doing a gear challenge. I came up with this idea based on the questions that I received from you, the viewers, on questions about how you could thru hike the Appalachian Trail and specifically about gear. What kind of gear would I recommend without breaking the bank, at the same time without breaking your back either? Now, because you're the one that gave me this idea, I felt that you guys should be the ones that gave me the framework and the criteria for what I need to work around. Based on your feedback, we came up with 3 different areas of criteria. The first criteria was cost. I needed to be able to stay under a $1,000 budget. The second was weight. I needed to do this with being able to achieve a base weight of under 15 pounds. And the last was seasonality. We needed to have a 3-season setup. After thinking about this, I also thought it was important to add a few extra criterias so that this was practical. So the next criteria that I came up with was, where are we going to purchase this gear? Because there's so many different places to shop and find deals. You can find used gear, new gear, certain sizes, certain colors on certain websites. I thought it was very important that we found most of this gear on a very particular website, Amazon, because I wanted to make sure that this is practical and everyone could get the same deal, instead of taking a different approach where I could find deals that might not be able to apply it to everyone because maybe it was just one of those one-time deals. Now, I said that most of my gear would be purchased from Amazon, outside of maybe a couple of other deals that I might have found, but with the mindset that any person would be able to also get that deal from a different retailer that I found. My second criteria was the common gear that you have lying around your house. So I said that I was not going to add in the cost of anything that I felt was probably lying around the house. First off, you have a phone. That would be what I would assume that you would bring on the trail, and you'd also use as your video camcorder. Everyone probably has a toothbrush, so you probably don't need to go out and buy a toothbrush. Things like that. And my last criteria was practicality. This had to be done in a way I felt that you could be able to thru hike the Appalachian Trail with this gear setup, a setup that I would recommend, that I would personally use myself, with a balance of comfortability and safety without sacrificing the two, with the same mindset of things that I feel that you definitely need and things that you definitely can live without. Based on that, those were the 6 criteria that we came up for the gear challenge. All right, well, let's get into it. So before I announce the results of my challenge, I wanted to tell you that I was able to achieve all 6 criteria. Now, before I announce where I landed on each criteria, I wanted to let everyone know that I'll probably be referring to my notes during the rest of this video. I don't have every single thing memorized like I had my own gear memorized that I took on the Appalachian Trail, so I will be referring to the things I have right in front of me. The second thing is I put together a list so it's easy for everyone here using Geargrams. If you're not familiar with Geargrams, it's a great website. Check it out. They actually, it's free, but you can upload your gear on there. It's very user-friendly, really easy, and it is simple. So I'm going to be posting this link to my list on the details of the email below, as well as every single product and a link to purchase them. In addition, I'll also house all of this information on my website, followbigfoot.com. Having said that, I put a lot of work into this gear list. I probably have spent a better part of 12 to 14 hours, and I really wanted to make sure that I had the right balance, and I also wanted to make sure that anything I recommended was something that was really, really practical on the trail. Now, having said that, I tried to find the absolute best deals that I could on these items, again working in the constraints that I had. Now, you may be able to find a better deal on some of these items, and if you can, that's great. However, many of the deals are probably within the framework of my gear list on the links that I have attached. I would be grateful if you purchased the gear off of my links. I actually will get a little kickback from Amazon in return. This will be helpful for me to continue to invest in my channel. There are some things that I do want to get: a better video camera, I would like to get audio equipment, lighting, and a few other things. So I really appreciate it if you guys supported my channel and use the links below. All right, let's get into it. I'm going to cover every criteria and where I landed on each. So first criteria, cost. I came under budget and spent $992. Second criteria, weight. I was able to get under 15 pounds. Now, depending on whether or not you count your base layers, your thermal layer, as worn clothing. If you count it as worn clothing, my base weight is 14.08 pounds. If you count it as base weight, I come in at 14.71 pounds. All right, the third criteria, seasonality. I was able to do this with a practical 3-season gear setup that you'd be able to use on the Appalachian Trail starting on a March 1st date or after. All right, criteria number 4 was where I'm purchasing the gear. I felt like I met this one. Almost every piece of gear of mine came from Amazon, with the exception of about 4 or 5 pieces of gear. The retailers that I did not get the gear from Amazon are retailers that anybody would be able to get the same discount. My 5th criteria was the common items that everybody has. All right, so let's go through the list of things that I felt that you probably had lying around that you'd be able to bring with you that I did not add in to the cost of the budget. The first is a town shirt or a camp shirt. So I did put in the cost of buying one synthetic shirt, but I left out one shirt of the cost because I felt everyone had a shirt lying around that they could use if it was synthetic, or if they just wanted some other shirt that they needed or preferred to have in camp or in town. The next item was a pair of shorts, and again, this is for town or for camp. I felt that everyone has a pair of shorts lying around. The third was a bandana. I recommend having a bandana, and I felt that almost every single person has a bandana laying around. The next is a phone. We talked about that. In addition to that is the headphones that came with your phone. Charging cables. If you have a phone, you have charging cables with that. Empty water bottles that you'll use on the trail. I felt that everyone could find some empty water bottles without having to spend any money. A trash or compactor bag as a liner for the pack. And then whatever hygiene items that you wanted to bring on the trail. Everyone probably has a small tube of toothpaste lying around or a toothbrush, and I wanted to give you the autonomy to figure out what you wanted, but I did not add that into the cost. Now, there was one item that I put on this list that did not involve cost, but is an item that most hikers make at home and use at home because they can just save some money, but they can save a lot of weight, and that is a windscreen for their stove. So I did put in my list here that that's something that, and the only thing that you would have to make at home. And my 6th thing was the practicality. I felt that this is a very practical gear setup. What I did was spend the money in certain areas that I felt had the most value, that I did not want to sacrifice comfortability, but really safety. So in this, to me, being really practical when we're talking about a 3-season gear setup is something that you would be able to use in conditions that you would see on the Appalachian Trail anywhere between March and October. So that to me was really, really important. And as I go through the gear, I will talk a little bit more about that. So that's it. That's the 6 criteria. I was able to meet every single one of them. But now I want to actually talk specifically about a few of the items. All right, the first thing I want to talk about is the pack I chose. So the pack that I went with was the Granite Gear Crown VC 60 liter backpack. I chose this pack for a few different reasons. The first is the weight. The weight comes in just over 2 pounds. It weighs 34 ounces. I thought that was a very comfortable weight on the trail with the budget I had. The second was the cost. The cost of this pack comes in $200. This pack is a 60 liter pack. I thought that was really important because I wanted to recommend a pack that would be able to give flexibility to you guys if there was anything that you wanted to add into your pack, into your setup, so that you had the extra volume to do that. In addition, I also wanted to make sure that I had a little extra volume for those of you that might be having to carry a little extra food based on the amount of miles that you're hiking and how many days that you are in between resupply points. So I thought the 60 liters was a very comfortable number. All right, so the shelter I went with was a shelter that's made by 6 Moon Designs. It's the Lunar Solo LE. I went with this shelter for a few different reasons. Number one is weight. It comes in at 30 ounces, so it's under 2 pounds, great base weight. The second is cost. The cost actually is 180 bucks, so the cost to weight ratio is fantastic. The next is the practicality of this tent. This tent, you'll actually use your trekking poles as tent poles, so you're not carrying around the extra weight. That's one reason why it is coming down to 30 ounces. It has a bathtub floor. I love this feature in my Z-Packs duplex tent. I thought that was great, especially when you have those downpours. And this seemed to be a very popular tent on the trail. I have seen on the trail. I heard good things about it, good gear reviews about it. So I thought overall this was a great shelter with the budget that we had. The next is a sleeping bag. This one was a tough one because there are so many different sleeping bags out there. And you can really save a lot of money on sleeping bags. But for me, this one, what was really important was quality. I needed to find a bag that was able to keep you warm, but at the same time being able to obviously handle the criteria that we had. And I knew I wouldn't be able to spend more than about $150 to $200 on a sleeping bag, but I needed to also keep the weight somewhere around 2.5 to 3 pounds at most. So what I came up with was the Kelty 20 Degree Cosmic Down. This is a really good sleeping bag for those of you that are just getting started into hiking and backpacking and through hiking. This is a sleeping bag that you'd be able to last on the trail. It also is going to be able to keep you warm on those cold nights on the trail. Although I haven't used this sleeping bag myself, there are a lot of great reviews that I have read on this. I checked out the bag at REI and definitely felt that it was practical and again was able to keep me within my criteria that I had. So let's talk about the pad. I knew I had to have a pad that would couple with the Cosmic Down well. What I decided to go with was the Thermarest Z-Lite Sole. This is a very popular pad on the trail. You see many thru hikers use this pad. It has an R value of 2.6, which is basically the insulation of that pad. It's going to be able to basically keep you warm in the colder months like March. So the combination of the Kelty 20 Degree bag with the Z-Lite, you're going to stay warm in some of the colder temperatures that you'll experience on the Appalachian Trail. Now, another cool thing I like about this pad is I bought and actually own this pad, and I felt, I'm 5'8", and I felt that the regular size of this pad was really long, so I actually was able to cut the bottom of it and use this as a butt seat. So what you could do with this is, if you are around the same height as me or even a little bit taller, you can actually cut a part of this pad off and you could use your pad to sleep on, and then you'd have a seat to be able to sit on, which you see a lot of thru hikers use. I had one last year as well. Now, if you have a later start date, I actually have another pad that I recommend if you want to go with that insulated pad. Now, this pad is not something that I would recommend if you're starting in early March because it's got an R value of 1.3, I believe. So this is not going to be something that's going to insulate you very well. But if you're starting somewhere in the middle of April, this is a great pad for the cost and for the weight. And that is the the Climate Static V lightweight pad. This is not the insulated pad, it's just the regular pad. And it comes in at about a pound. It only costs on Amazon, if you got a certain color, it only costs about 43 bucks. And then I think the rest of the colors were about 52. So it's actually really cheap and it's comfortable. So for a pound and the ability to inflate the pad, I thought this was a great option for someone that had a later start date. All right, the next thing is the down jacket. Now, there are so many different jackets that you can get out there on Amazon for really cheap. And to be quite honest, I don't trust them. I went with a reputable retailer because I felt that these are one of the things that you really want to make sure that you have a good jacket, because you never know what kind of safety situation that you're going to be in. And if you need to get warm really fast, this is going to be a key piece of gear that you need. So I was able to find a very affordable down jacket at REI. It's the REI Co-op down jacket. And right now they are running a special. I believe they are phasing out of some of their older 2016 models and colors. There are 2 different colors that you actually can get this jacket at a price point of under $50. Yeah, that's right, under $50. So this is a down jacket. It weighs 10.2 ounces. Fantastic. It's got a 650 fill down, which is great for the cost and for the weight. That's fantastic. The 2 colors are Vin Rouge and Juniper. And again, you can get both of these colors. It looked like in any of their sizes, small, medium, large at REI. I wouldn't wait really long, but they are available right now. So I highly recommend that as your down jacket. And then the shoes that I decided to go with were the same shoes that I actually wore on the Appalachian Trail. This is one that really is particular to you. So it's what you feel comfortable with, what is going to fit and conform to your body. So what I'm recommending is the New Balance Fresh Foam Heroes. Now I have wide feet, and these were really comfortable with me on the trail. I loved them. They're really cheap. I was actually able to find them right now on Amazon, most sizes for about 45 bucks. This is going to be one that really determines on what your comfort level and those things are. All right, so that kind of wraps up the key pieces of gear that I have. A few other things that I wanted to talk about. There are a few things that I wanted to let everyone know that aren't a part of this gear setup. And these are things that I felt you can live without, but I wanted to make sure that I was clear that these aren't involved in my gear setup. The first is GPS. So I use the DeLorme InReach Explorer, and a lot of people use Spot. If you're hiking with a group of hikers, you probably are going to be with somebody that has one of these. So it's probably not super necessary to have. I would still have one, but this was one way that I was able to save some cost. I didn't put a watch in here. I figured that if you have a watch that you like, you can bring it with you on the trail. I recommend any sort of watch that's going to be able to give you your elevation. I didn't have a hat in here, so I know that most of you have a hat lying around, and this is probably going to be a worn item. I figured most people would have a bandana or a hat. I actually brought both, but I prefer a bandana. And lastly is gaiters. I did not put gaiters in my budget, and I didn't hike with gaiters last year. I think it's can be a preference. I probably would hike with gaiters. I think there's definitely a lot of value in that. So if that's something that you want, that would be on your dime to go out and get. All right, so as it relates to clothing, again, this is a 3-season setup. I basically have a clothing setup that gives you basically the ability to handle any weather conditions that you'll see on the Appalachian Trail. Save some money by going with frog togs for the rain getup. You'll see that a lot of that on the trail for through hikers that are trying to save some money, but heard a lot of great things about that. Have 2 pairs of socks, one for hiking, one for camp, but I think you always need to have 2 pairs of socks, as well as I put a pair of liner socks in here. Now, I already mentioned about the camp in town short and shirt. I did put in my budget of buying a synthetic shirt if you did not own one, as well as a pair of convertible pants that you'd want to have on the trail. Most people are going to have some sort of zip-off pants, so I gave that as well. Electronics, I went with a few things in here. Obviously, we talked about you bringing your phone, your chargers, your headphones. I did go with a battery charger because I figured most folks are going to want a battery charger on the trail. In addition to that, I found a nice headlamp that saves some money here. It's the Petzl Takina 80 lumen headlamp. This is a headlamp that has a lot of great reviews. 80 lumens is enough if you want to do some night hiking. I felt that was a great value, and it only comes in about 3 ounces. For kitchen, I went with a stove setup, so you can save some weight and a little bit of cost if you decide to go stoveless. Now, the stove that I went with is a stove that I actually have, and it's 10 bucks on Amazon. It's small. I've used it probably about maybe 15 to 20 times. I haven't had any issues with it, and honestly, there are so many different small compact stoves out there. It comes in at 3.5 ounces. But for 10 bucks, I thought that was a really good deal. I did do a stuff sack for your food. I did a stuff sack for your clothing, And of course, I also did a stuff sack for your sleeping bag. All of them are water resistant, and I felt that, you know, as long as you have a pack liner, which I'm recommending a trash or compactor bag, a pack cover, which I actually do have in this gear list, it's a part of the budget, and you have those water resistant stuff sacks, you'll be good to go. Miscellaneous, I added in AWOL's AT guide on here, and I went with some trekking poles. The trekking poles that I went with are some I have not used myself, but again, I saw a lot of great reviews on it. And the trekking poles are the quick lock trekking poles. I do not like the twist lock trekking poles. I personally don't like them because I've had times where they've gotten stuck. And one of the German guys that I hiked with on the trail this year, White Walker, actually was not able to adjust his pole because he had the same problem. So I recommend power lock trekking poles, and that's what I put in here. Got a great deal at $30. And again, you'll need these for your shelter. Sleep system, so the shelter that I'm recommending here doesn't come with tent stakes, so I did put in some recommended ultralight tent stakes. I also put a ground sheet in here from Tyvek, so again, I got links for all of these things in here. And then lastly, toiletries. This is really on you, what you want to bring. I didn't put any of this stuff in my cost. However, everything that I feel that you need on the trail, that I recommend that you need on the trail, including the things that I said that you probably have lying around your house, all of those things I included in the weight. So everything is included in the base weight, and what I just basically did was items that I felt probably are common weight that you would use and that you would bring with what you probably have working around your budget. So you can find these things for a lot lighter, but you're probably going to have to spend some money if you don't have them lying around. So I just really went with the middle of the road. All right, everyone. Well, that wraps it up. I hope you find great value in this, and I hope this really helps out a lot of you guys out there that are intending on through hiking the Appalachian Trail, but you have a really restricted budget to work around, but you wanted to do this without breaking your bank and your back, like I said earlier, and again, within the constraints of the time frame that most through hikers are going to hike the Appalachian Trail. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you can support me and my channel. Use any of my links to purchase your gear. Again, I am attaching the list from Geargrams. You can get the links from there by clicking on any of the items, but I'm also putting this in the details on the content of the video as well as my website. All right, hikers, well, that's it for me. I hope you found this valuable. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. I had a lot of fun with doing this activity, and I learned quite a few things as well, which is always great. So stay tuned for my next sighting, and remember guys, always follow Bigfoot.